So 2020 had to, of course, leave the racing world with one more punch to the gut before exiting, with the news that Tiz the Law had to be retired due to bone bruising in his cannon bone. He had been a bright spot on the upcoming racing calendar, giving the fans the hope of seeing what he could do as a more mature 4-year-old. According to reports, it would have been too risky to keep him in training and racing because of the bruising. But what exactly is bone bruising in thoroughbreds? Why can some horses come back from it and some cannot? Thorofan takes a deeper look at the issue as Doc discusses bone bruising. We have all gotten bruises in our lives. We bang into things, or maybe we've had a surgery that had some post-operative bruising going on. The mechanism behind it is pretty much the same. Some minor blood vessels break, and that, combined with the inflammation the trauma causes, leads to both healing of the area and that wonderful rainbow of colors we all get as a bruise heals. In all cases, though, the cause is a direct blow to the area. Well, when we talk about bone bruising in racehorses, the term in most cases is a bit of a misnomer. There can be true blunt force trauma occurring on a bone that leads to either outright fracture or kind of a swelling in that area of the bone. For example, a horse kicking a stall wall or banging their leg against something. But when we hear about bone bruising in racehorses, what we really mean is lack of the bone's ability to properly adapt to the stresses of training and racing. If we don't recognize this lack of adaptation and the horse is allowed to continue on, the results could be catastrophic. Bones are constantly undergoing change in the body in response to various stressors that are placed on them. The more load a bone is asked to take over time, the stronger it will become. The less load it needs to take on, the weaker it will become. This is what is known as bone remodeling. For horses that are in training and racing, that increased load is often put on the cannon bone, and more specifically the lower front portion of the cannon bone. Now, under normal remodeling procedures, what happens is the body perceives this excess loading on the bone and works to make it stronger to deal with the increased load. To make it stronger, it first has to make the bone a little weaker in order to lay down new and more sturdy bone. Cells called osteoclasts, the little red guys here, work to first dissolve parts of the bone to provide a foundation for osteoblasts, the little blue guys, to come along and lay down a layer of new bone that is stronger and able to better absorb the stresses of training and racing. If all goes well, and in the proper time frame with the bone being allowed to strengthen and remodel properly, then the horse goes on to train and race without a problem. However, if the horse's bones cannot adapt to the stress changes fast enough, then problems can occur and we can see evidence of what is called bruising. If detected early, then usually the horse has their training reduced or they're even turned out for 60 to 90 days to allow the bone to remodel properly without increased bruising or damage. What does happen if that bruising is not detected and the horse just continues on in racing and training? Well, if the bone is not able to properly adapt to stress, and it starts getting into that negative adaptive state, eventually microstress fractures can occur. Those microfractures can then lead to more serious damage to the bone, including things such as condylar fractures, and in some cases, catastrophic injury of the horse while training or racing. That is why it is so important to recognize this as an issue in racing horses and deal with it appropriately. So how does one know that bone bruising might be an issue in a horse in training? If it is severe enough, lameness when the horse walks or trots usually can be noticed. Other times, though, it is the exercise rider or even the jockey in a race that feels like something is just not right. It might be a horse unwilling to change leads, one that has a more choppy or short-strided gait all of a sudden, or just a feeling the rider has that the horse is not right or balanced. This is reportedly what Robin Smullen felt on Tiz the Law during a routine gallop after his last work. Following an initial exam of the horse, more in-depth diagnostics such as digital radiographs, bone scans, and more recently PET scans of the area are done to look for evidence of a problem. Usually, digital radiographs that are done at the right angles can pick up a lot of cases of bone bruising. If they can't, or there's bone bruising in multiple legs, which can happen, making diagnosing lameness a little bit more tricky, a bone scan known as a scintigraphy scan or even a PET scan may be done to try to help localize the issue for then people to go back and look more detailed with x-rays. From there, every case is different. If it looks like the bruising is so bad that there's a bigger risk of catastrophic injury happening even if time off was given, as at least appears to be the case given what was been released so far about the severity in Tiz the Law's case, then the horse is usually retired from racing. There is a very strong correlation between having this bone bruising and the risk of more serious injury occurring if it is not addressed. If there appears to be the start of a fracture somewhere that can be addressed by surgery, that may be attempted as well. If it looks like time may be all that is needed, then either the horse is turned out in a paddock for a few months or they are kept in much lighter training at the track. Both of these methods help reduce the stress load temporarily on those areas of the bone and allow the proper remodeling process to catch up and make the bone stronger again. As was mentioned, it really is an individual case-by-case decision, as every horse is unique. Bone bruising is likely more common in one form or another in racehorses than many realize. Talk to some equine veterinarians who work on these horses, and they will say that anywhere from 40 to 65% of horses in active training likely have some degree of bone bruising. As the diagnostic modalities become more mainstream and vets look for and understand the significance of this problem in thoroughbreds, who knows what the future will hold in possible newer treatments or training regimens to help mitigate its chances of occurring. If anything does change in the way bone bruising or anything else in the thoroughbred racing industry is looked at, you can be sure that Thorofan will be right there to bring you the most accurate and up-to-date information on it. For as we have always said, an educated fan is a better fan.